had mentioned in her introduction to the conference inauguration, many of you are not there. Sconley started about 9 years, 8 years ago, and the idea was older, 2002 or so. I've been trying to convince various people at different organizations to have this in India, and it didn't work out. It was almost going to happen in 2004 in Shillong, and I just asked for 10,000 rupees from the organizers, and I said I will get 75,000 more from some other funding organization. They were still not ready to do it. We said we do it in the vacation, we'll triple up in rooms, etc., but they were not ready to do it. So it's not just a question of money and resources, but also it's a bit of a politics as well. We don't have time to talk about that. But finally, it came. The dream came true, and we could not do it in Delhi. Another story, but we could do it in Hyderabad in CFL. IFLU was known as CFL at that time, and I think there were 12 presentations and 12 abstracts and 12 presentations. So you can imagine from that time to now when we had more than 100 abstracts, 112 abstracts and how many presentations? 29 or 25? 20 presentations. So I think it speaks volumes, the health of the event and the movement. I would like to call this as movement, and I'm very happy to see that. Uh, I think many more teachers should be associated with it, and of course many more students. We know there are many more linguistic students doing all kinds of linguistics who are not part of this event here. So anyway, so that's the introduction. And second thing outside the paper I want to talk about is that I'm very happy that I'm speaking here today, because many of you know I have many other engagements, and I'm kind of very committed to those worlds also. And I get to do syntax I only for my teaching. I don't and supervision a little bit. I don't get to do much syntax. So this is a great opportunity for me to actually do some work. And the work that I'm going to present is something which I have been working on and off, and I'll tell you that every 2 years I've been working on it since 2011. So I'll look at my work on this domain in 2011, which I presented in Norway, in 2013, FUSL presentation in California, and this 2015 is an update on that. But I'm afraid I probably won't have time to talk about that in detail. The other problem about this presentation is that I have to run it as a workshop, so I have to give some exposure to people who know and who do not know about agreement and case in Indian languages, and then also present my work. So let's see how much I can do. Okay, so this is the title of my talk, Inner Outer Politeness in Central Magdhan Prakrit Languages, Agree as Labeling. It's a very heavy title. Um, there are two kinds of politeness I will claim in my part of the talk, and I'll also claim half-heartedly that agree is labeling. So this is the workshop part, and let me start with some recent very innocuous comment in a paper by Wali. Agreement has been a central concept in the syntactic theory of human language. Within government and binding, that is the GB framework, agreement was a result of the structural relation of government. This is not true, okay? Or whatever rewriting of history of agreement during the GB happens is mostly not true. I don't think we had any theory of agreement in GB. Agreement was used as a very metaphorically as a trope. AGR was used for various kinds of things, bindings, etc. Little pro, etc. But not really agreement, morphological agreement that we see. So case and agreement in GB, and from there to minimalism. People who know a little bit of GB will know that case is ununidirectional. You put the accusative to the right, I mean in one direction depending on the language, you put the nominative on the other side. And that was agreement, as I said, was kind of neglected in GB, although other generative paradigms, not transformational generative paradigm as you saw in the first slide, like GPSG and HPSG, agreement was really a big step, and they did a lot of work, accurate work on agreement. They may not have said much meaningful stuff for human language as such, but the work was much more detailed than in GB was. Structural case in minimalism became a spec head phenomena. a specifier and head relation from GB, and case became kind of unidirectional, and also we had the concept of case at LF. These are the big changes from GB to minimalism. Agreement we saw in it had a comeback in minimalism. It was a much more elaborate system, and now it is like all over. Most of the current work, most of the dominant current work is on agreement, so much so that people getting tired of agreement. So if there are conferences discussing agreement, some people decide not to go there because it's the same thing being talked about over and over again. So it's a quite a big change from almost hardly any work on agreement within a model for 10 to 15 years to a lot of work on agreement. And you will know that there are this AGRPs, new functional categories, AGRP, and then it was elaborated further to show that there are more than one AGRP. It is not just agreement of the subject and the verb that you're talking about, but there are languages where you have agreement of object and the verb. There could be agreement of other things as well. So in principle, you can have more than one agreement phrases in a clause. For looking at our own corner of the world, Anup Mahajan's work one was the first one of the first ones in this kind of model. This kind of model means he was like straddling from post GB, which is the barriers period, to the early minimalism. Minimalism was not very clear at that time. It was talking about 88, 89, and 1990. His dissertation was 1990, and 89 was his paper on agreement. When minimalism was definitely in the horizon, at least in Massachusetts, it was definitely there. But for us, it was not so clear it was there. But he was kind of stuck in across the changing discipline. So his explanations are kind of barrier based, but the trees, etc., are definitely within the early minimalism period. So you can see this in subject agreement. What happens in subject agreement in Hindi, according to Mahajan, is the clause starts off at the base level within the VP, and there is a series of movements to the specifier, the subject movement to the specifier, and the head, the V, moving to the other heads like agreement, auxiliary, another agreement, and then to inflection, and you get this sentence. What is the sentence? Raj ne Raj roti khata tha. Okay, Raj used to eat rotis. Then case and subject agreement in Mahajan, there was this two kinds of options. So if the subject, they're shown in red, the subject is red on this side because the color is not there here. The subject, if it is case marked, remains inside the VP and does agreement with the V in some fashion. The other option is the option of moving out, again through these layers of agreement phrases. You can see in these trees you have two agreement phrases, AGRO for object and AGRS for subject. So that was the, you could say it's like directly contributed by Anup Mahajan in a way, because he was working there at MIT with Chomsky at that time when Chomsky was writing this paper with an agreement phrase. The concept was in a way technically borrowed from another important work which appeared in the same year. 1989 is an extremely important year because the Chomsky had this paper, Pollock had this paper, okay, on splitting the inflection into agreement and tense, and later on so to mood. And also Anup Mahajan was doing this work on Hindi agreement at the same time. So I think 89 is a very crucial year when things happened, and Anup showed, obviously because he was working on Hindi, showed that there are object agreement cases as well. So you have AGROP. This is some more prose on the object agreement in Hindi, and this is the tree for object agreement, where he showed that there are certain other properties associated with the movement of the object out. So the object sort of moves out to an agreement shell just above the VP, where it establishes a spec head relation with the AGRO, which is responsible for object agreement. And later on, of course, the subject moves higher up. So you get the same order, but agreement and case of the object happens at the not at its in situ or place of birth, but at a higher position. Now agreement in minimalism changed a little bit after that, the real minimalism. However, the story of minimalism, which after going through generalized and more uniform versions of derivations like the above in terms of both case and agreement, as relations being obtained through feature checking and spec head configuration, ends up proposing a more refined version of movement, namely feature movement, which is yet another movement metaphor, but it still retains the movement metaphor. Okay, so minimalism is not, standard minimalism is not very different from early minimalism. It retains the, it changes the language of case assignment to case checking, but the concept is same, and the metaphor of movement also is very much alive within minimalism. The change that happened afterwards was kind of little drastic. This was like case and agreement without movement, which is a bit of a drastic step, because for 10-15 years, one of the main reasons for movement was case. You know, now NP arguments will move to get case. Derivation of passive was explained in that fashion. The thing which is in the object position moves to the subject position in passive in order to get case, and that is considered to a very beautiful thing, because you are getting a passive structure and you are also getting that passive structure explained through another phenomena, which is case. It's not a question of just subject behaving like object, the old traditional idea, or the object behaving like a subject. It is through case, and it beautifully matched with this other principle of EPP, extended projection principle, that clauses must have subject and some languages must have overt subject. So agree without movement looks a bit like this, as you can see here, that the there are features associated, there are fine grained features. So with T, which is the inflection, our old friend I, now known as T, it has phi as the general broad feature label, and you have more specific feature labels of person, number, and gender, and then you have feature values. Okay, so this node T or inflection does not have the feature values when it comes to the derivation. Okay, so this color, this values are given in blue on the right hand side display. These are the values which are gotten after this T arrives in the derivation. So from the lexicon you pick up a T which has uninterpretable phi features. It has to be valued, it is unvalued. And then valuing happens this way. The direction of first of all, the green arrow direction is the T, which an uninterpretable set of features is looking for something within its C command domain, that is within its sister relation, sister and below relation, looking for something to match or to give itself some values, and it finds this noun phrase which comes packaged with the phi feature, because when you talk about a girl, you already know the phi features of the girl. Okay, third person, feminine, and singular, and you also get the definiteness information in that expression that I just mentioned. So it already comes with the phi features. It's called interpretable phi features. Those phi features then value the uninterpretable phi features of the inflection inside the syntax proper. So from lexicon, the noun phrases come with values of phi features, but the T or the inflection does not come with values of phi features. It is the job of syntax to value these unvalued features. In fact, that is the reason, raison d'être for syntax to remain. I mean, syntax does only this, to give values to features. Then I was working on this and also teaching about it, and I came up with this concept which I think I presented for the first time in Patiala in international conference, where I showed that the concept of unidirectional agree must be given up. We need to look at agree in both direction. If you go back to the slide, earlier one, you can see here the direction of agree is from T to DP, lower within the C command domain, and direction of valuing is just the opposite. The DP is valuing the features in T. But there are several cases where you need to have both directions, and I called it pseudo agree. I didn't take it very seriously. I didn't write a paper, but then little later I saw, to my amazement, many people have actually written papers on this concept. but I didn't have a paper, I just had a handout. And again, I had an opportunity here in 2013 to present, 2013 or 12, 12, yeah, to present that work, and I called it Pseudo Agree Part 2, and people were wondering why is it called Part 2. So anyway, the Pseudo Agree is a concept which came out through my teaching, actually teaching this David Adger's book in class. You saw that it's all over the place. The agree system that David Adger uses in his book is all over the place in all kinds of directions. There are various problems with it, various things which are not explained. But the idea came to me that it's probably we need to have something not so random and mad like David's, but maybe we need to have something like that. So in Adger, this is the direction. You can see this is quite opposite to the Chomsky direction that we saw, that the valuing and the agree is happening in the same, from top to low. It's happening in the same direction. There are certain problems with it, and I'll just take one example. I think it is an old tree. Yeah, one example with Bangla sentence at the bottom of this slide. Robi kola kheyechilo. Robi had eaten banana, and I tried to show that you need both directions of agree to get a more minimal representation of agreement for a language which does not have overt agreement so much. It has person agreement, but it's not like Hindi where you have person, number, gender agreement. So I won't go into the detail of it. You can have a look at it, and that will solve the purpose of exposing you to case and agreement. Okay, so this is the part 2, that is my part of the work, and again I'll have to go through the data part little hurriedly here. As I told you at the introduction that I want to talk about two kinds of politeness. I think this is something which has not been done in syntax, at least not been done. Maybe in functional linguistics, maybe in pragmatics, people talked about it in different ways. But as far as I know, in syntax, it's not been dealt with. And I tried to formalize this, maybe not very successfully. So in the process, I'm going to update my work from 2011 and 2013 on these group of languages, which I'm calling as Central Magdhan Prakrit languages. They have these two very striking phenomena, which is a good reason to work on these languages. Not many languages have these phenomena. There are very few languages in the world which have these phenomena. One is I'm calling the multiple agreement phenomena, which is a standard term. The other is not so standard, but some people have called it. I'm calling it allocutive agreement phenomena. You can also call it addressee agreement phenomena. Okay, so I'm calling it. I gave this name, and it's shortened to AAP long before the political party came into existence. So maybe maybe after today's proposal, maybe in future there will be another party called MAP. So this is the question that I found interesting, a typological question. Why do we see, and it's not completely true, but let us pretend that it's kind of true. Why do we see this allocutive or addressee agreement in languages which already have multiple agreement? Now, addressee agreement, just to give an idea, I'm going to introduce it later, but since I'm talking about it, it's a third person in the sentence. The first person is shown in green and third person is shown in blue. But in the agreement morpheme, that last the verb, you see first person absolutive, you see third person ergative, but also you see second person. So where is this second person coming from? It's not there in the sentence at all. But of course, it is the addressee, the person that you are addressing to. So that I've shown it here in this diagram in a way that it's going out of the clause. Yeah, you see this happening, something is missing here, but you see this happening in this Central Magadhan Prakrit languages, all languages. Maghi also shows this, Maithili, Angika. Kurmali I have no way to find out because he didn't study this phenomena in his dissertation. Mahato didn't study. Angika example I have given here, again this is from Deepak. This is a summary of the data. Agreement can be fused number and honorificity, fused person number honorificity like we saw in Maithili. It can be person honorific number and gender in Kurmali. All languages show multiple agreement. Inflections may be isolable in Kurmali, Maghi, Angika, not so in Maithili. All languages show IO preference over DO. Okay. All languages show agreement with the dative genitive subject. The agreement may be both with the subject or the nominal head of the DP. with only nominal head, the pattern of agreement may be nested in certain languages. I've given the details, or crossing. And addressee agreement you find in this 3 out of 4 languages. Okay, I move towards the domain, the proposal, my proposal, and I'm talking about these 2 domains of politeness. Politeness agreement takes place through pronominal honorificity marking in these languages. There seems to be 2 domains of politeness in these languages. One within the verbal domain in the form of honorificity agreement. That multiple agreement we saw are all except Kurmali to do with honorificity. An agreement with the object, and the other in the form of the allocutive agreement, the addressee agreement. Okay, and then we can look at some other language which does not have agreement per se, but has some similar phenomena as allocutive agreement, which has been discussed. This is not from Kitagawa's work. This is an independent work by Potts and Kawahara. Look at the sentence: Mary ate the apple. Okay, you've got all the markers, past tense with the verb, but you also got this mashi, okay, inside this, which doesn't refer to anything in the clause. It just means this, the second meaning: I respect you. There's no connection between these 2 sentences. Okay, Mary ate the apple, I respect you. It's almost like in my that puzzle presentation I said it's like a haiku. It's like you have to read something in between, but it is actually an addressee component. When you're telling somebody who is senior or respected, whatever, about Mary eating the apple, you also put this marker there inside just to show that honorificity. So what are the theoretical possibilities? Well, you could try this binary feature which is in fashion, looking at person in terms of plus minus author or plus minus participant, started with Neuer's work in 1992, but you can't actually see. You can see that combinations of this plus minus of participant and author is not going to give you addressee. Okay, so that's not going to work, the binary feature thing. Now, feasible possibility of this very interesting bit of work which is happening for last 10 years or so, which I think all started with Anagnostopoulos' work in 2003 and 2005, and various people by Bejar, Rizak, and I think Gurmiti is going to talk about these kind of stuff in her presentation, and Nevins has worked on it, other people worked on it. That's a possible field, and I'm going to use part of that. Okay. Politeness again in 2 domains as a feature movement. All of these accounts are trying to capture the deeper underlying notion that there is some 2 way of feature movement within the clause. Right? I don't have time to analyze this, but if you sit down with it, look at all the papers, you will see that's the underlying theme that's happening there, which is not there in the agree concept that we looked at in Chomsky. Okay. However, they neglect a crucial aspect, and that's where my problem is, and I'll come back to that later on. The analysis that I'm going to use will end up saying that politeness may be a deeper property of language. Okay, in one sense, it is a deeper property which shows up in lower verbal domain symbolically in expected ways, namely in the form of agreement markers on the verb. That's the way we see it mostly. We see it in pronominals also, but we are, linguists mostly are interested in the verbal decomposition. And there was work like Lalit is here, Lalit's MPhil with me, which tried to show politeness in Maithilon, which is really low in the clause. Okay, politeness is not a very high phenomena. But however, looking at addressee component, I think there is a wider dimension of politeness, which I'm calling the 3rd dimension. Those of you who were there in Conley 7 in Aligarh would know that that was the main part, although I didn't talk about this data, but 3rd dimension in linguistics. That is to release the clause into the real world of discourse. Okay, and that this transition is also captured in some languages morphologically in the form of allocutive agreement affixes. So what I'm going to claim, not today but generally, is that all languages have allocutive agreement, but some languages show it overtly. So you don't see it in other languages. So all languages by definition should also have 2 agreement slots. So all languages are like multiple agreement languages where 2 agreement phenomena don't show up and 2 honorificity also don't show up. Is there any way to build this discourse level thing into a clausal level science? The kind of syntax that we do, we're restricted to only a clause. Well, fortunately, there were some people who were working on this in the 90s and later on, not many people work on this, and again Renu will present something using this structure. I started working on this now when I started looking at this phenomenon of addressee agreement. This is a tree taken from speech and Tenney's work, where you can see there is this speech act projection. Okay, speech act is something which is outside the clause in a way, and you have the speaker and hearer. It's like you're constraining the existence of discourse in a tree form, but every science does that, right? If I want to talk about something which is not a familiar object of my science, I will bring it and familiarize it. I'll say, let's pretend that object is X, and then proceed. So I'm pretending, they're pretending that speaker, hearer can be put tied down into a clausal structure. So you have the clausal structure of a speech act. Within that, you have this utterance component, utterance content, which will be our CP or the sentence. Okay. So this allocutive agreement, I'm giving a fancy name, that's a veneer of politeness. It's doing something else, and more work needs to be done. And I'm using this concept of feature passing in certain ways. There's some interesting recent work by some people. This is work by Wali and work by Miki Obata, where you see the three kinds of feature movement, either sharing or keeping or contributing. So the idea really originates from Chomsky's writing, with his beyond explanatory adequacy. Just before that, his ideas when he said that tea itself is not a contentful thing, and he has come back to it recently. His recent work in 2014 and 15, the lectures that he has given so far, is coming back to this idea that tea is really valueless and it gets all its value from C. So it's kind of features are transferred from C to T. And Wali and all these people worked on this and came up with this, Hamid Wali came up with this concept of sharing and contributing, and passing of features. So I am taking my inspiration from Miyagawa's work in Japanese and Basque also, and giving a different angle and saying that there is a probe, allocutive probe, which originates in a speech act head and it's moved up, okay, and it shares its 5 features with T lower down in the clause, and it does these two things of T agree, tense kind of agree with subject, and itself it does C agree with the remaining NP, which is the object. It's possible. We're discussing that during the T. It's possible. And there are two ways of looking at this phenomenon. In the current literature for last 10 years, people who have looked at Southern Tiwa, Mark Richards and Fabian Heck had looked at Southern Tiwa, which is another language with multiple agreement, people who looked at Basque, and people who looked at this phenomena. There are two ways of dealing with it, multiple agreement, and this is summarized here in A and B. One is called intervention based locality, and I think that will be mainly Gurmeet's. Maybe that's the main part. I finally couldn't get to read because your paper. But that's one way of looking at it, and many people, Andrew Nevin's, Anagnastapulu's first kind of work was on that domain, where the concept is there is a probe P, and it is probing a structure Y, goal Y, but features of X would bleed that of features of Y. If X is in between, the features of X will sort of block the probing relation from P to Y. Okay. The other thing which is interesting again has come up in last 5 years or so, it's called cyclic agree, where agree sort of happens bottom up. Okay, so within a cycle you do the agree bottom up. So you do the verb agrees with the object first, then it within the VP it agrees with the subject, and then other agree happens. So this is called cyclic agree, where exactly the opposite kind of bleeding relation happens. Okay. Now A is used mostly for PCC based effects. Won't have time to go into that. Where main idea is that the variation in different languages where you have this PCC effect within the two objects of a ditransitive predicate, the variation is it? The variation is really located in agree. So you're changing agree in a way, saying that agree is not of a constant nature. In the second approach, a cyclic agree approach, variation is located really in the lexicon. Okay, so especially in the featural specification of the probes, and I'm going to use a bit of both. Okay, the IO over DO preference in these languages that I've looked at gives a strong PCC kind of effect. But must remember, I didn't remember that time when I proposed it, that we're dealing with pronominals and we're not dealing with clitics. In fact, in my second presentation in FASL, I showed how different it is from Munda languages, clitics in Munda languages. So we're dealing with pronominals and not clitics, therefore we need to talk about case as well. So this was my last work on this domain, 2013, where I talked about, this is the sort of analysis. Basically, you want what is there at the bottom. You want a verb with an agreement feature of the subject nearest to the verb, and then the agreement feature of the object. If you look at these languages, this is the pattern you get. If the verb is agreeing with the subject and a non-object or object, object if there is an object, otherwise an indirect object, it will agree with it later. Okay, I mean in terms of the sequence of the features. And if you take this sequence of features seriously in terms of some kind of Baker's mirror principle, then automatically you will come to the conclusion that the sequence of the agree relation that has happened inside the clause must be also in this sequence. Okay, and that's really problematic. I don't know why people didn't highlight the problem. Forget about the solution, but that I think is really problematic. Apart from other problems which are given, which is due to the kind of theories that have been proposed within agreement. But the real problem is just a morphological problem. How do I do this morphology? What kind of syntax do I do in order to get this morphology, where the subject agreement is nearest to the verb and the object agreement is the outer one? Okay, I mean, only much later one can ask a question, why is it so? So this was the analysis there, that there is a differential goal axis, that there is one probe and two goals, right? And all the PNG features are matched with one goal, that is the subject, and then the honorificity feature, due to its different nature of featural composition of the probe, it accesses the object later on, and you get exactly this sequence of agrees. You do agree with the subject first, and then you do agree with the non-subject or object, and you get the sequence, morphological sequence of V AGR subject and V and AGR object. Okay, now the other approach, I said theoretical possibility, is cyclic agree. I looked at it in 2011, not very in detail, but cyclic agree, I told you, if you remember, it's you do agree in a cyclic fashion. You do the VP agreement first, and then you go up, do the inflectional subject agreement. Okay, so CP agreement, cyclic agreement by logic, would give you the bottom up kind of approach to agree. Now here what's happening, what we see here in these languages is really top two. You're taking always the subject and whatever is coming next after the subject. It so happens in these languages, indirect object coming first. If there is an indirect object, you agree with that. If there is no indirect object, you agree with the object. Okay, so it's really top two, and that's why I had this analysis there, that agrees there is really only one probe which agrees from top, accesses the subject first, and then remaining features access the object. So cyclic agree by definition should not work. And now coming to looking at problems of projection, Chomsky's latest published work is problem of projection 2013, the Lingua paper. Looking at that and the Kyoto lecture and the Sofia lecture, if you look at that, there is a new kind of system that we have, and it is really about labeling. Okay, so EPP, for example, movement of the subject out of the VP, is nothing but for labeling requirement. And why do we need labeling? Because we need interpretation. At interpretation, and I just discovered this from this really otherwise useless conference in my department 2-3 days ago. I really discovered this from one talk, that there was this Buddhist philosophers who were looking at grammars, Apoha, and that tradition. They were actually talking about two main things which are needed for interpretation. One is nominal, one is verbal. Okay, this was in 7th century. They were talking about that, and in a way, it is kind of similar superficially to that. That at the interpretation level, you need to know what is the nominal part of the clause and what is the verbal part of the clause, and how this nominal interact with the verbal. How is predication formed? Okay, you need to know that. For the LF, the logical form of your the module should figure that out. Okay, so you need labeling, and for labeling you need to move things out if there is ambiguity. So there is no time to read, but the last bullet point, that's going to be important in this two-layered politeness story that I am painting. You know, one reason why you need morphological, why do you need morphology? 5 minutes, yeah. Why do you need morphology is you need to know where your phases are. I didn't get to talk about it, but you know, big chunks of the clause, let's say, where your phases are, and that's one of the reasons why you have morphology. And I think that's one of the reasons why you probably have agreement as well. So in this two-layered politeness theory that I am proposing, you have VP politeness, small VP politeness, which is happening with the object agreement, the subject and non-subject agreement, and the address agreement whenever it happens as the CP level. So it's really about identifying the phases. Now let's look at labeling. I won't go through this. This is very current work that's happening. I mean, it's happening as we speak, kind of thing. And you have this actually four situation. I didn't show head. You have this head and XZP needs to be labeled very easy. Label it as X. XY not difficult according to Chomsky, because now it is only about roots and functional categories, not really about X and Y's. The third one is the most common one. We see XPYP all over the place. Whenever you move, you see XPYP all over the place. You see it in the VP. You have the subject merged with the rest of the VP, that is XPYP. And there are two ways of going about labeling this. One is raising out one of the material, whatever is left behind is the label of that phrase. Or you find, and this I think nobody has worked on it yet because it's too new, that you find the most prominent category, that is the least embedded item, and it could be a feature, and you label it accordingly. So I think this is what my half-baked proposal is. I think agree is actually for labeling purpose, and labeling, I told you, is for interpretation purpose. So in a very weird way, agree, which gives you agreement, okay, apart from other things, agree is actually working for the CI interface, the semantic interface. So this kind of, in a very strange way, you can come to that conclusion. Look at the last bullet point. For example, English T0 is weak and therefore cannot label the projection. Okay, so it needs something. It needs something to move to it and something to remerge. You get this internal merge of the subject which is lying lower down in the VP to come and merge with the T or T prime, okay, and you get a label. You get now a phi agreement between the subject and the T, and that's the most prominent feature, and that gives you the label for this, okay. So provides a phi label. So it's like phi comma phi within a angular bracket. That's going to be the label of T, projection of T, and that therefore is EPP. So now EPP is justified from two corners. One is the VP has to be labeled, therefore the subject has to move out. It was creating too much ambiguity in the VP, and the T needs to be labeled, projection of T needs to be labeled, therefore the subject lands up there. Okay, so I think it's quite nice if it can be shown to work, and if you can get other effects out of it, it's very nice. But at the same time, notice this is also what we do in an agree relation. And if you are going to label it just before transferring the part of the clause to the LF, I think I have got two more slides, okay. Then you need to do this agree. So no, this is the last slide. This is the last one. So what I'm saying, I know I mentioned earlier that there was something crucial lacking in all these two ways of looking at this kind of phenomena. One was the intervention level effect phenomena, which I did with those green and blue arrows. That was that model, and the other is the cyclic agree model, where you agree bottom up. One is top down, the other is bottom up kind of agree. Okay. Now both these models, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think ignores a very crucial part of this whole mechanism. It ignores the fact that the phases have to be spelled out. Okay, so by the time you complete the small VP, your big VP has to be transferred. It's not there. Okay, and by the time you reach C, when the features are transferred to T, your VP is gone. So how do you do this intervention effect kind of agree there, because it's not there. So cyclic agree makes sense from that point of view, because as you construct bottom up the phase, you complete your agree cycle. But for reasons that I looked at, the languages I looked at, it seems it is always top down. You always get V, subject agreement, then object agreement. It seems it's top two, not bottom two, and therefore cyclic agree won't work. So this is really a problem that I have, problematic corner that I have painted myself in, where the language data says that you need some kind of bottom two or bottom up approach. Theoretically, the bottom up approach should not, bottom up approach works, but on the other hand, I have this problem that these are not clitics but pronominals. So you need to do the case also of the pronominals, and case can be gotten by communicating with the V and also at some stage with the T. You get to, you at least want to work out the nominative and the accusative case features. So these are the roughly the steps that the V probes the subject inside the VP. So this is different from cyclic agree. Subject is inside the VP, it has not moved out, for labeling is not required right now, and there is no case feature agreement happening as a result of phi agreement, which is the Chomsky system, but it's not happening here in this system, and only agreement happens with the subject. Okay, step 2 is VP probes into inside the small VP, so it's kind of opposite of Bejar and Rezac's cyclic agree. It's not going bottom up, it's going top down, but within a cycle, okay, within the small VP. So it then does the object, then it gives it does agreement and case. Step 3 is this VP is then spelled out and the big VP is transferred, the complement of the thing is transferred. Then the subject case in the next phase. I have not worked it out because there are problems with it. Okay, the subject case will happen with another agree relation, which will happen later on in the CP phase. Okay, so that's basically the model. I think you need these two kinds of agree to remain, but I think one needs to pay attention to this fact that if you want to do some kind of agree, you also cannot forget that phases have been spelled out. So you need to have some mechanism which has to be minimal. So I'm calling, actually I didn't write it down, but I'm calling it like minimal agree. So it's agree is also like a algorithm which is minimal. Labeling is a minimal algorithm. Agree is also like a minimal algorithm which looks at a minimal piece which is within a phase and does a top down agree and then moves on to the next phase. Okay, so this is a technical part and this was my new work, but I think in order to look at case and agreement, there are many interesting issues in Indian languages, and like the one I highlighted here, and if anybody can come up with a solution, there is a 1 lakh rupees prize. Thank you.
So Tanmay, uh, so I like the idea that agreement or agree for you is happening within phases, and assuming that you have these phases, little VP and CP, with some relevance for the semantic interface. I mean, we're just going with Chomsky's idea that you have VP and CP relevant. These are the phases because of such and such reasons. What I'm unable to understand, but probably that is already there in your slides and I have not paid enough attention. I don't understand because you started off with agree part 1, then you have pseudo agree, which was very interesting for at least for me, because it meant that it's not asymmetric anymore, right? So pseudo agree I thought was basically meaning that you could go in both directions.
Yeah.
Right? And now we have minimal agree. So I'm just trying to understand, how does one put together your pseudo agree part 2 story and the kind of approach you have here, right? So that's something I couldn't understand. I have also a technical question. I mean, this is mainly because it's a workshop and I was scribbling it out like everyone else should have done by now. So I can ask you the technical question also. So when you pointed out those problems with the mirror principle, for instance, and you said that either if you go top down, you have a problem because you see the subject agreement coming first, and if you go bottom up, you see the same problem. I was actually thinking why that should be a problem, because if you have, if so lexical VP also does not, lexical V does not have features, just like T.
Yeah.
And there is feature inheritance from little v to lexical V. So if you were to actually look at the system, similarly you have T taking features from C. So if you were to look at the agreement system, or even the case, which is obviously related to case relations, you basically have a very local agreement relation. So it's between lexical V and the object, T and the subject, which is in the specifier, right? So if the lexical V were to give it case to the object, right, and if you had the T, C, or the V little v moves up and gives case, so if you actually linearize a structure like this, you get verb, subject agreement, and an object agreement. So I'm not very sure, and if at the
But
same
that's
time,
exactly the opposite of what I want
you have the subject agreement coming first.
with the V.
Yeah, but see, I am not even talking about cases where auxiliaries are there, right? So if you probably will see some agreement, I mean, I don't know how the auxiliaries are working out here, what agreement
No, the
features
linear structure you projected like this,
so it's
you
T.
said object, you said subject, object, and verb.
Yeah, so no, so you will have, what will you have then? You will have a T.
Yeah.
If forget about
No,
the
you have
T.
agree. I guess agreement morphemes because you're. Anyway, finish your question.
No, so my question is that it depends on how you have the feature inheritance happening, right? So again, order irrelevant because I'm talking mainly about the subject agreement morpheme and the object agreement morpheme.
Okay.
But otherwise, if you talk about a head final language, there will be other questions which will obviously I haven't been able to work those out. But I think if you have the feature inheritance on lexical V also happening, you may be able to overcome some of the concerns that you have here. That's the second question. It's just something that you have to work out.
I think you're aiming for that 1 lakh prize. Okay. No, I think you need to take care of it in the cyclic agree fashion because you don't normally do agree of the subject in the VP. That happens only if you do cyclic agree. So there is a problem, inherent problem in my solution. That's why I didn't call it solution. That if you do a cyclic agree model, which is to do agree in a cyclic fashion, where they say they took it very literally. They are doing completely bottom up. So with the small v, I mean the DP within the small VP first, and then going up to the subject, which is a spec of small VP. But if you take it slightly less literally and say that cyclic means within the agree cycle, within the phase cycle, okay, so within the VP, then you can do this what I'm trying to do. So I'm taking the concept of cyclic agree but changing the notion of cyclic in that fashion. But otherwise, if you just straightforward apply mirror principle, you won't get the subject agree at all happening within VP because the subject has to move out and you do the T agree. When you do the T agree, even if it doesn't move out, if you don't have this minimal labeling algorithm of latest Chomsky, if it doesn't move out, the T is going to agree. So it's always going to happen later. Then it's very difficult because the VP has to be spelled out. Along with it, the object agreement morpheme has to be spelled out. So how are you going to get the subject agreement morpheme between the V and the object agreement morpheme? That's not going to, I can talk to you later on, but that's the crux of the problem, that it is never going to get you. There's something inherently illogical about these two things, the morpheme order and the syntax of agree. The first question was, yeah, that's an interesting one. I didn't pay attention to that, but I haven't worked out the case, especially the subject case story. And in order to work it out, I think I'll have to do more than what I have done so far. And probably I'll need the pseudo agree concept there as well. The pseudo agree concept is something which I am kind of hesitant because it needs to be completely formalized. Otherwise, it will be left to saying that you can do whatever, whenever. If you say you can't do pseudo agree within small VP, but you can do within TP, then I think it's a formal enough system. So I'm going towards that. So maybe the subject case story, when I try to work it out, I will need that. But I'll keep that in mind. Thanks. Jay has it.
One problem which you mentioned, I think you really don't have. That is, for example, that by the time the
C, you go to T.
yeah, the VP phase will be closed by the time, because Chomsky also has a proposal that the VP phase is closed only after C is merged.
Yeah, you were telling me that yesterday. Where is it actually? I mean, Is it?
I'll show it to you. That's
Ah.
in one of his papers.
Okay.
He says this is also possible.
Mhm.
If you take the second position, it won't be a problem for you.
Mhm.
Chomsky has a solution.
Mhm. But that's the earlier thing.
Yeah, Chomsky first said that the when the little VP is completed, the complement of little v to which big V has a join, the complement will be spelt out. Then he, in a later paper, he says it is possible that the little VP is closed off only after C is merged. So if you take that position, this technical problem will be solved.
Because the phase, but the
Yeah, yeah.
huh? Because the PIC, the phase impenetrability condition, gives you access to the specifier and the head, right? But it doesn't give you access to the complement domain.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but case will still remain a problem because you need to, if you go my Fasal story, then you need to end up saying that the object case you're getting through this agree from T. Now I'm doing only the honorificity agreement. Anyway, I can talk about it
Yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Honorificity agreement with the
Mm.
T and the
Mm.
object.
Mm.
So can I get case out of it? It's a big question.
Yeah, and another thing is a data contribution. That is, even in Hindi, you get a sentence like "वो नहीं आएगा G,"
Mhm.
where the G could be a kind of honorificity agreement with the
Addressee
with the addressee who does not figure in the
clause.
in the clause. And the same thing happens in Tamil.
Tamil, yeah.
Yeah,
Amit
yeah.
has worked on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this might be a much more
Yeah.
general phenomenon.
Yeah. Pin drop silence. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I've done the. Yeah, I've looked at it. It really doesn't work. No, I've read the Ninuma's dissertation also. I don't remember. I don't remember that. But the solution they are doing, it works for. Actually, these are not cases. I've been peddling it as multiple agreement, but these are not cases of one probe, two goals. These are actually the solution I'm proposing is two probes and two goals, because you're getting the object agreement, you're getting the subject agreement. Okay. So for typical multiple agreement things, which are some Bantu languages, maybe that will work.
If there are no further any students questions,
They've all
no?
understood it.
Either it understood or went okay, whichever way. Thanks, Tanmay.